Okay, now talking about rational numbers, th- these rational numbers can be split into integers and non-integers. Non-integers. Okay, integers and non-integers. So what are integers? Well, integers, that is just another word for whole numbers. So we are referring to all the negative whole numbers. Negative whole numbers, that's things like -1, -2, -3 to negative infinity. We're also referring to zero. Zero is an integer. And we're also referring to positive whole numbers like +1, +2, +3 to positive infinity. All these are integers. So integers can also be referred to as whole numbers. Now, talking about non-integers, we are talking about fractions. Now, fractions exist in three forms. Okay, we can have the percentage fractions. Okay, so when we talk about percentage fractions, we're talking about fractions of this form: 60%, which is equal to 60 over 100. Okay, 30%, 25%. In fact, percentage means out of 100. So when I say 20%, I'm actually talking about 20 over 100. Then we can also have decimal fractions, okay, which we usually refer to as decimals. Now, talking about decimal fractions, we can have something like 0.5. Okay, we can also have something like 0.003. All these are examples of decimals. 0.5 can also be written as 5 over 10. And 0.003 can also be written as 3 over 1000. Then lastly, we have fractions in the vulgar form. So we are talking about things like 1 over 2, 1 over 3. All these are fractions. Okay, even though sometimes you can express these fractions as proper fractions, these ones as proper, then when they appear in this form, 4 over 3, where the numerator is bigger than the denominator, we refer to them as improper fractions. So whenever you have fractions where the numerator, that's the one at the top, is bigger than the denominator, that's the one below, we can refer to them as improper fractions. Okay, some other times we can also have a mixed numbers like 2 quarter, 2 whole number 1 over 4. Okay, we can also have 3.5, that's 3 whole number 1 over 2. All these are fractions. Now, if we get back to integers, don't forget these are positive integers. Now, in these positive integers, we can also call them natural numbers or counting numbers. So these positive integers, these are the values that we use in our day-to-day counting. For example, I have 2 books, 3 books, 4 oranges. All those are counting numbers. So natural numbers usually represented with n are referred to as positive integers. So these natural numbers, when we're talking about these natural numbers, they can also exist in their different forms. For example, in natural numbers, you can have odd numbers. Okay, these odd numbers are numbers that cannot be divided exactly by 2. For example, 1, 3, 5, 7. The sequence continues till infinity. Alright? Then we can also have even numbers. Even numbers, these are natural numbers that can be divided exactly by 2. Thus, they can be divided by 2 without a remainder. They include 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on to positive infinity. Okay? We also have prime numbers. Okay? Prime numbers, these are natural numbers or counting numbers that can only be divided by 1 and the number itself without a remainder. That means they can only be divided exactly by 1 and themselves. For example, 2. 2 is actually the only even number that is a prime number. So we have 2, 3, 5, 7. Not only this, we even have larger numbers, much larger numbers like 89 and so on. Then the last natural number we'll talk about will be composite numbers. Now, composite, that's just like the opposite of prime numbers. Now, referring to composite numbers, we're talking about numbers that are not prime numbers. That means they can be divided by other numbers. Okay, they have several factors more than just one and itself. For example, the number 4 can be divided by 1, 2, and 4. The number 12 can be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. The number 60 can be divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, okay, 15, 20, 30, and 60. So all these are composite numbers. Okay, so this is a real number system. So we've had a brief recap of these numbers. When we look at them, talking about the real numbers, we said real numbers can be split into rational and non-rational. And the rational numbers can be split into integers and non-integers. The integers can be split into negative, 0, and positive numbers. Non-integers can be split into percentages, decimals, and vulgar fractions. Okay? So non-integers are also called fractions. Then positive integers or natural numbers can also be grouped into odd numbers, even numbers, prime numbers, and composite numbers.